Hey there, Philip the Librarian here. I'm here to talk about a really bad book called Galaxy 666. Now, this is a science fiction novel written a long time ago, and what we get here is actually a pretty interesting story. It's about some scientists who go to a very strange place called Galaxy 666. And Galaxy 666 is basically an area of space that resists all definition. It is a solidified entropy, a place of chaos, and they can neither chart it or navigate it because all of their machinery fails. And this could actually be a very interesting story. For example, you should read the short story The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. It has kind of some similar themes. The problem with Galaxy 666 is that the author, Pel Torro, also known as Lionel Fanthorpe, is one of the worst writers ever. Almost every sentence is just subject-verb, everyone speaks in a monotone, and the writing is just constantly redundant. Now, before I get to the hilariously bad stuff, I'm going to share with you a few rather interesting quotations in this book. At one point, a person says, "The only thing that man learns from history is that man never learns from history. The same old cycles keep asserting themselves over and over again." Another interesting quotation. "The humanitarian atheist is guilty of the paradox of spending his entire life proving that there is a God, and his entire breath proving that there isn't." An idea about the chaos of this place called Galaxy 666, kind of similar to the concept of entropy. "The computer refuses to give any kind of concrete or logical answer about Galaxy 666 because the computer itself is loaded with contradictory information. In fact, the information is so varied and so contradictory that there is no possible gestalt of any kind which the computer can detect. The data is so completely random that it's impossible for the computer to synthesize any theory from it." Another statement about chaos. "None of these coordinates are making any sense. 4 2s are 1, 5 2s are 100. There's just no pattern." This quotation here, which actually reminds me of the show Stranger Things. "The whole universe is an orderly pattern, a kind of great tapestry. One side is pleasant to look at and makes sense. One side is the design, that side is the gestalt. On the reverse side is the chaotic confusion of threads that leads nowhere and that apparently do nothing. Take a piece of embroidery. One side's the pattern, the other isn't." And finally, this rather interesting metaphor. "Galaxy 666 is a piece of punctuation that brings the Empire's prose to a rather savage halt." Now, like I said, those are some of the more interesting quotations in the book. Now we're going to get to the weird stuff. "I watched while the old Astra cruiser and the 5 other capsules went plummeting into that sun like an old hen followed by her chickens, like a swan and 5 little cygnets swimming over a waterfall to destruction. They were tossing now, like a cork that had been tossed into a roadside Niagara, disappearing down a drain, like a tiny singing bird being buffeted by a particularly ferocious gale against which its tiny pinions were practically useless. Twinkling, flickering, and glimmering, the rocks turned to spangled tinsel as the light ate into them, like fireflies eating into a summer twilight. A challenge is only stimulating when it is a challenge to which a man can rise. A challenge is only a challenge when there is a possibility of overcoming the obstacle that it represents. When the obstacle in a challenge is surmountable, then there is the thrill of conflict, whether it be mental or physical. But this was just crazy. This was a computer problem. Yet it was not a computer problem. The problem lay outside the computer. He moved swiftly and purposely, for he was a swift and purposeful man." As you're probably noticing, there's a lot of redundancy in this book. Many people theorize that Pel Torro used a thesaurus to come up with as many synonyms as possible in order to pad the work so that he would have enough words to get paid. There's one scene in which 2 of the astronauts are going through the different machines on the ship and making sure that they all work. And the author has to name all of these machines. The trigger tube satisfactory? Trigger tube perfect. Monoscope? Okay. What about the intermediate anode? Intermediate anode is fair. How about the dielectric? That's all right. Is the capacitor in? Yep, capacitor is fine. Check for fluorescence. None. Then we get a description. The others were falling beside him. 4 lifeless men in a lifeless ship. 4 blind men in a blind ship. 4 deaf men in a deaf ship. 4 mutes in a mute ship. Okay, we get it. There are 4 guys in the ship. Holy crap. And here are some amazing descriptions. There are things in concealment here. It's like walking on the edge of an ambush all the time. It's as though the whole place were strangely camouflaged, as though it were a mask, a visor, or a veil drawn down over a face that it was better one did not see. Somewhere, something is hiding, lurking, skulking. This planet is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Under the wool, or behind the masquerade, there is an imposter. Who or what it is, I do not know. It's an obfuscating planet. It's a disguised planet. This whole galaxy is a strange mystery, a mystery to which we seem to be no nearer a solution than when we were back in the happier parts of the Empire. It's a furtive planet. It's reticent. I get the feeling that it's screening, that it's hiding something. Gets even better. Here's where the author describes the aliens on this planet. The things were odd, weird, grotesque. There was something horribly uncustomary and unwanted about them. They were completely unfamiliar. Their appearance was outlandish and extraordinary. There was something quite phenomenal about them. They were supernormal. They were unparalleled. They were unexampled. The shape of the aliens was singular in every sense. They were curious, odd, queer, peculiar, and fantastic. And yet when every adjective had been used on them, when every preternatural epithet had been applied to their aberrant and freakish appearance, when everything that could be said about such eccentric, exceptional, anomalous creatures had been said, they still remained indescribable in any concrete terms. At one point, one character says, "How do we know that thing is real? It might be a vision, a dream, a nightmare, a phantom. Perhaps we are seeing a ghost ship. It's a mirage, a shadow, a vapor. It's a visual fallacy, a delusion, an hallucination." And another character replies, "You're very rich in adjectives this morning." So yes, I think Pel Torro, aka Lionel Fanthorpe, was aware of how ridiculous this book was. I guess he got paid something to write it, and it's kind of amusing, but I don't really recommend reading it. So, that was my quick review of the book Galaxy 666 by Pel Torro. Do you agree with my assessment? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below and feel free to subscribe. This is Philip the Librarian, signing off.